Hi guys, today I'm going to be talking to Emily Sharpe. She's a candidate for the 26th district that covers Sunnyside, Woodside, LIC and parts of Astoria. Hey Emily, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
Oh, great. So listen Emily, for people that don't know you, just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you live, what you do for a living, and why you're running for council.
Okay. Hi, yeah, my name is Emily Sharpe. I'm running for City Council in District 26. I've lived in Sunnyside, Queens for 23 years now. My husband and I moved here from Brooklyn a long time ago. We raised our son here. We live in the same apartment that we have been the whole time. Um, yeah, so I work in the I work. I'm an attorney. I to community law school when it was out in Flushing. Now that it's really close to me, I wish I would have gone there then. But yeah, so I'm an attorney. I work with legal services industry. I work for a nonprofit in Staten Island, and I work helping low-income clients, mostly with Social Security disability benefits and some family law, some DACA stuff. So yeah, and I started the group Stop Sunnyside Yards to push back against the development over the rail yards that's similar to Atlantic Yards and Hudson Yards.
Okay,
I
can
did
I
that
stop you
about
there a
3 years
moment,
ago. I
Emily?
started that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's actually how I got to know you, is through the Sunnyside Yards project. You were quite visible at the
Right.
time. Just tell us a little bit about what your objective was with that group that you were a part of or helped organize.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. So I just saw that it was going to raise the rents around Sunnyside and Long Island City and all around, and it was going to displace people. I just saw it being a lot like Hudson Yards development, which was just luxury development, not really for us, but for people, you know, to attract other people from outside and tourists and things. And I just didn't think it would be good for the neighborhood. I knew that it was going to be, the build out would be 50 to 100-year build out.
Mm-hmm.
We would experience all the bad things of it, of all the construction and the noise and the dust, and we wouldn't be able to benefit from the good things. And I just did a lot of research on other projects like Atlantic Yards and what happened there with the
Mm-hmm.
build out and the gentrification. And I just
Right.
thought it would be bad for the community as far as displacement and
Right.
losing small businesses, things like that. So,
Right.
and
Okay.
I started to educate everybody. Thank you.
Oh, no, that's right.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you were to become the council person, you'd have an enormous say over that because it would probably go through the rezoning process.
right.
And so what would you pretty much have the opinion of just leave it the way it is, or would you be open to some sort of development there?
Yeah, I would say leave it the way it is, but I would want to. I mean, there have been ideas of like putting solar panels over it.
Hmm.
I think that's a good idea, a solar farm there. But anything that's going to be building a platform over it is going to be very costly. It's going to be basically
Okay.
estimated about $22 billion.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, that's, dollars, 2017 dollars, I believe. So with
Hmm.
inflation and cost overruns, and they say 50 to 100 years to build. So it's going to be $50 billion, $60 billion. So in order
Hmm.
to make, and that would be the city and the state paying for that. So in order to make our money back, we'd have to have maybe luxury development. I know they say otherwise, but it's just not lucrative or realistic to think it would be just affordable housing and things like that. So,
Right.
but yeah, I would not approve it, but I would want other good things for the community. I would want, there's opportunity here to have greener parks and use some of the space. I see a lot of along the rail yards. There's a lot of parking that's not used on the weekends. I think it's mostly people from out of town, but I think we could
Hmm.
do some green spaces along there. So I think community driven
Okay.
ideas that we should do, but not necessarily over the rail yards. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Emily. Now I've asked every candidate so far about Amazon. I know it's a couple of years ago, and it's sort of ancient history, but it gives people an indication as to how you might see things moving forward. What were your views on that project at the time? And do you sort of see, hey, listen, our economy's in dire straits right now. Those jobs would be kind of nice to have. What's your take on it? 2 years on, after
Okay.
I guess Valentine's 2 years ago, they said they were leaving.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
That is true. Yes, so I was not for it at the time, and I still wouldn't be. I
Mm,
see it as I just know what happens when you introduce a lot of higher income people into an area where the AMIs are lower. And like it happened in Seattle when Amazon went up there, it happened in Arlington. The
mm,
rents really increased and they displaced people. We saw it in speculation here when Amazon was going to come. Housing prices really went up. Had a friend who was looking to buy, and she said that prices were 100,000 more than after they
mm,
left. So I just know how things work. Like I said, in Seattle when Amazon was there, housing prices went up 60%. And Google and San Francisco with influx of tech workers. Not that tech workers are bad, but it's just like higher income people into an area where there's not that great of income. Um, there's a record homelessness in San Francisco. People living in their cars, living in RVs on the streets, and going to the Y to take showers, things like that. So I don't think, especially when we have so much homelessness now, and I don't think it'd be good to introduce that. And 2 years ago, we still had record numbers of homelessness. So I didn't think it was a good idea from that standpoint. As far as jobs, 25,000 jobs, that sounds like a lot. But if spread over 10 years, 2,500 jobs a year,
mm.
that's something. But New York City creates a lot of jobs every year, and that's just kind of a drop in the bucket. But also, Amazon is here. Amazon just bought a building on Fifth Avenue for 1.15, I believe, $1 billion as their New York headquarters. And they also are renting out space in Hudson Yards. And they're
Mm,
also looking to rent out space at 34th Street. So, and they're opening a big million square foot warehouse in Maspeth to, as a last mile warehouse. So they are here, and there also are lots of other tech companies. If we're thinking about tech jobs that we want our residents to get,
mhm.
there's Facebook, Twitter, Apple, Google. There's like tons of tech jobs here. So, and they're coming here still. So I think it was a little overplayed, the jobs part of it. I know every
Mm.
job is good, but they are coming on their own anyway, Amazon. So,
All right.
yeah,
Okay.
so I think that's fine.
What that land down there? What about by the Annabelle Basin, in the heart of? I guess it's kind of Hunter's Point. What would you like to see go there, if anything, for that matter?
Well, I would say now, I really like to see, we've had so much development in Long Island City over the past 10 to 15 years. It was the fastest
Mm,
growing country or city in the country. They built 30,000 new units of housing. That's almost like 70,000 people could live there. There are tons of empty office buildings, warehouses. People actually are leaving the city. There are about 300,000 people that the post office said, they got change of address forms and they're leaving for good. So,
mm,
and we have 60,000 people left before the coronavirus happened anyway. So we have all this empty space. I would like to actually see some of those buildings. I'd like the city to either buy some buildings or the state to do eminent domain or something. But we need those buildings, the units that are just sitting empty for our to help our housing problem. So I think that could be. I think we should kind of just wait and see on more development. I mean, it's a private space, so they can, if they want to build, they can build, but I don't want to see us giving public subsidies or, tax abatements to them when they can afford it. So, like I said, it's a private property. They can do what they want, but they should be able to do it on their own without using our tax revenue and dollars. So, as far as the public space, I would love to see a great new state-of-the-art school there. I would love to see maybe a new hospital. We know that
mhm,
a lot of the hospitals were, we didn't have enough hospitals for coronavirus here. They were rezoned out of here. There's talk of community land trusts and
mm,
worker cooperatives. So a lot of things like that would be great. I'd like to have a conversation about all those things. But also we have to keep in mind sea level rise, and we want to make sure that we're making wise decisions with what goes down there. So for now, I would say, I'd like to see a moratorium on luxury development for sure, and
mhm.
huge
Okay.
development. So I just want to kind of wait and see what happens, because we don't really know what's going to happen after coronavirus, if people are going to be coming back to the city to work, or they're going to be working from home for good.
Mm.
So yeah.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. Now, Emily, I've seen you've been quite outspoken in terms of the PHIPPS development on Barnard Avenue. Obviously, they're looking to upzone to build affordable housing. I've seen you speak out about it. Can you just tell us about your views on it and what
Sure.
you would like to see pan out?
Yeah, sure. Well, I wrote the article, why PHIPPS, them coming is not a good idea. I did a lot of research on PHIPPS as a bad landlord. I so my main things are, PHIPPS. I don't really understand why we would want to give somebody with a track record of abuse or neglect of tenants and tons of violations and evictions. PHIPPS is number 11 on the worst landlords list. So that was 2019, and actually they got worse. In 2018 they were number 15, so they moved up a spot. So the number one being the worst. So they even got worse over the years. So I did a lot of research on them, and I found that there's a pattern of evictions and violations and in high in areas that are going to be have gentrification, or a lot of people are going to come and
Right.
want to live there. So I feel like they can use that space for, it's a space that's zoned for manufacturing. That would be great if they wanted to create jobs, but I don't really understand why we'd want to give a bad landlord a chance to do more damage to the community. And also, I don't really believe that they want to give affordable housing. They have already in their building, they've converted, it's a rent stabilized building, they've converted about 10% of it to market rate. And so, if you're really for affordable housing, why did you do that? Why not? Let's see you bring that back to rent stabilized. And then you have units sitting open that when we have a housing crisis, why aren't those units being filled? So, affordable housing, I know it sounds noble, but Fred Trump built affordable housing. It's not, it's a niche market where you can make money. It's just, you have to know how to do it. It's a little more specialized, but you do get city money and federal money and state money. So I don't think that we should be thinking that PHIPPS is, our knight in shining armor as far as this goes. And, those are my main issues. And I do know that PHIPPS has turned affordable units into market rate. Through my research, I found that they turned Mitchell-Lama into market rate. And there's a housing complex in the Bronx, and it's not even 50 years old. And they are saying that it's, not good planning. Actually, even PHIPPS is the one who built it less than 50 years ago, but they're saying it wasn't built properly. There's all these things wrong with it. We need to demolish it. So 800 units of affordable housing that they're demolishing. And what's going to happen is they're going to build taller, bigger, and they're going to put market rate in there. So I think their affordable housing ideas it's just a way to get their foot in the door, get the rezoning under de Blasio's MIH planning and do that. So, and I've also seen that they're already breaking the zoning resolution. So they're supposed to only have 3 bands of housing. It's like I've seen, and you've written articles about it, where you have 40%, 50% is of the AMI of how many units go within those bands, and they're only supposed to have 3 bands, so it would be 40%, and the highest, I think they're saying they want 90%, and then they should only have one other band, and they have 5. So in this way, it helps the landlord more because he can spread out the units more over more expensive units. So they're already breaking that, and they are putting more units than they should be in the top bands, and they should be putting more in the lower. And it's the lowest band that they're offering is 40%, which is really about $40,000 a year. And by the time this gets built, it's going to be about $48,000 a year. And we know that if you have a minimum wage job, that's $30,000 a year. So we're not even capturing minimum wage workers. We're not even capturing people who work at McDonald's or that really need the housing, or people that maybe want to move out of NYCHA housing. So, it's the disingenuousness of it too bothers me. And I want to let people know that it's not really as affordable as they say. And plus they're a bad landlord. I don't think that they should be rewarded. So those are my 2 really big arguments with that.
Okay,
So
so if you're a council member and the application was before you, you would say, no way, right?
I would say no way.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. All right. So
I think we have, oh, sorry, Christian. I was just going to say that we have all the housing in Long Island City that we could utilize, or if we have another landlord that comes in that doesn't have a bad track record and actually would be able to provide, truly affordable housing, that would be great.
okay. All right, Emily. So just moving on, the police, I want to ask you about them. Um, you know, obviously 2020 was a year which they were put under the spotlight. Supposedly the budget was reduced by $1 billion. There were supposedly chokehold reforms, etc. What would you like to be seeing done with the NYPD in terms of reforms, in terms of its budget moving forward?
Yeah, I definitely think that we should reduce the budget. I think that we should have a new way of thinking about the police. Um, I believe, our budget it's not quite, but it's getting close to 10% of our budget. $6 billion is a lot of money
Hmm.
to put towards the police. I think that, we have 35,000 officers on the street, which kind of translates to so we have 51 council members. That's about 700 police officers per council member. And I was thinking, wow, what would I do? If I had 700 police officers under my charge, or in my district, and it's like way too many. I could see definitely reducing that in half to start, and there's lots of ways you could do it. There are about 10% or 3,000 police officers that have 6 or more infractions, or the CCRB said that they violated people's rights 6 times or more. So if we just get rid of the worst offenders, and they all make approximately $100,000 a year, that's about $300 million, and then we get rid of the lawsuits from all the settlements from the police misconduct. That's another 250 or so. So that's $500 million there. We get rid of police in the schools. We there's just like so many ways to do it. And just, I'll see retirement, I'd like to see the residency, if we have police officers, I think that they should live in the community. I think it's strange to have people, I can't imagine me going to somebody else's community, like up in Westchester, and telling them what to do. I just think that's odd. You don't have any connections to the community. So, but I also think that besides funding, we just really need to think about how we want to police ourselves. And, I think we should be putting it into the community's hands more. And I just think that it's kind of scary to think about. And I know we need police for certain things, violent crimes and white collar crimes and things that we saw in the Capitol, things like that. But we need to, work together and just think of it in a new way. Like
you touched on it there a moment ago, violent crime. But what do you say to people that would, challenge you on the street and say, hey, Emily, I don't know if I agree with that. Shootings are on the rise, homicides increased in 2020, and here you are talking about reducing the police. What would you say to someone that said that to you?
Yeah, well, I think that if we even reduce them in half for now, I think that would be enough to cover all of the violent crime that's happening. Like I said, I don't really see any police officers in my district. The only time I really see police officers is when I'm at a protest, or not even say protest, but a rally for public housing, to save public housing. A couple weeks ago, I was at one, and there were police officers there. But nobody's doing anything. We're just standing, holding signs saying, please don't take our housing. So, I don't really understand. I think that we don't need that kind of thing. So I think we'd have plenty, if we just started reducing it in half, we'd have plenty. But I know that, there are people who are scared, and think that the police can
look,
solve all the
a lot
problems.
of cops are like school safety officers and things like that are not sort of part of what we think of if you're watching Law and Order or something like that. But all right, in terms of reforms, any thoughts on that, or what is it? Or actually,
Police reform.
Yeah, reforms. Are you sort of looked at that at all, or?
Yeah, I mean, again, I would just say new way of thinking, put the money into community policing, just like after school programs, ways to keep kids safe. I think kids and people get into trouble when, they don't have a support system to help them out. I just think we need to be putting money into those kind of things, and reforms. Yeah, I mean, that's what I would say. I would just say, like, let's think of things in a new way. Let's think about the way we had started saying, well, we need to get out of coal, we need to get out of fossil fuels. It's a big idea, and we just need to start talking about it and thinking about it and finding ways to make it work. We can look to other cities. I know places like Oakland, California, they've worked with people who were in the criminal justice system. They did outreach with them, and they had them work with others who were maybe they thought were going to commit crimes or something. They worked with them to help them go on a different path. So, I mean, there's like so many things we can look at. It's just a matter of thinking that we want to do this and having that mindset.
Okay. Now, Emily, not too many candidates in the 26th council district have children. You're a mum, your son, I think, went to PS 150. Tell us about what your thoughts are on schools and the experiences that you've seen in the district, I guess, as a parent and a candidate.
Sure. So my son has gone to school here in the neighborhood, Holy Mountain, and PS 150. He's going to Robert F. Wagner now. He went to middle school there, and he's stayed there for high school. And yeah, so I think education is the key to everything in the world, right? Everything that we do. It's all about education. Knowledge is power. We need to make sure we have equity in education. I'm for getting rid of the specialized tests. I think that we should make every school a top-notch school. I think every school should be like Stuyvesant and Brooklyn Tech and Bronx Science. I think that we should have state-of-the-art everything, and I think that we should be consolidating our schools and making them, when these new developments come up, they always say, oh, we're going to create a school for the new development, for the luxury development. But who goes into that school? The wealthier people. And so they're off on their own, and it's still lots of, segregation, basically. So I want to get rid of all of the ways that we would segregate our students, and I want to put them all together and have like top-notch teachers. I want to hire more teachers. I want to hire mental health professionals. I want to have counselors in the schools. I think that's a way we could, funnel money from the police department. I think that's the best way to go. My son and I talk a lot about this, and education. If we were all educated better and knew about civics, we might not see what we're seeing with fake news or whatever you want to call it, things that happen, people not believing the facts and things like that. So I'm a big proponent of education. I think it's a huge thing for me to really push for that. And I know specialized high school tests, I want to phase it out. I know people put a lot of time and money and energy into that. And I think, I don't want their kids to have to just spend all their time working for a test. I think that they should also be able to go to the best schools. We should all be going to the best schools where we don't have to spend all our time studying for a test. We should all just get the best education.
Fair enough. I want to ask you about community boards. Obviously, the community boards weighed in on the PHIPPS project. So obviously they have a bit of say and political clout. So how would you go about appointing council board members? What are your views on the board itself, actually?
Okay. So I would I think community boards should be 100% lottery based. I think that we should take out the bias and the political, the politics out of it. I think that, we have a lot of good people on the community boards, but I just think that there's too much, just bias. And
can you elaborate on that?
I think that,
do you see bias?
Well, I just feel like, well, maybe bias is the wrong word, but I see that. I think it should be more of a civic duty. I think
Yeah.
it should be more, you shouldn't have to be a political wrangler in order to get on. I don't think that
Hmm.
you should have to know every single thing that's going on in the community or know every single
Yeah.
person who has political power to get on it. I think it should just be, it's lottery based. It's like jury duty. It's a
Mm.
civic duty. You can opt out. Like, so you get a card in the mail that says, "Oh, you've gotten Christian. You've gotten on the community board. Would you like to do it?" And gives you more information, obviously. But if you want to opt out, you can. But you can still be in the pool for another time. But yeah, I think it should be a civic duty, not a position of power. I think that everybody should get an opportunity to be a part of it. I think that's the most democratic way.
Mm.
Um, I don't
Okay.
think it should be a stepping stone for other things. But yeah, I think that's the most democratic way.
So
So
you'd
I
have an
see.
application process. Everyone who's applied then would be put in a pool, and then you'd have a lottery based on that. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah. I don't even know if you would. I don't even know if you'd need for people to apply. You would just like jury duty. You get their names out of the
Okay.
voter rolls, or not the voter, but just data.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and it would that would stop. Well, I mean, I think that people, not everybody has time to find out what's going on the community board,
Mm.
and that doesn't mean they're not interested, or they might find it a good idea, a good experience to be part of the process. So just not everybody has time to be up on everything, and I think
Yeah.
this would be a good way to get more people involved. So
Good.
but other than that, for the community board, I'd also like to see some bylaw changes. I'd like to see there not be, I don't want to see private meetings with developers, things like that. I don't want to see backroom,
Mm.
things that people don't know about it. I would like to see the meetings restructured so that we don't have to just, the regular community member doesn't, the community doesn't have to just wait till the end and say something in 2 minutes and not get questions answered. I think it should just be an open process, more open process, and um, more
Yeah.
dynamic. So yeah,
Fair
those
enough.
are some of my thoughts.
Okay. All right. Emily, I want to talk a couple more topics. One is transportation. Um, in the council member that we have now, has been a strong advocate for protected bicycle lanes. He's been praised for it. You've obviously had some critics too. What are your thoughts on the protected bicycle network? Would you expand it? It's gone onto Crescent Street, Skillman Avenue, 43rd, Queens Boulevard. What would you do? And do you see it as a successful project?
Yeah. Oh, protected bike lanes. That was very controversial, and I think it probably still is a little bit. But yeah, I was when they first came out. I'm somebody who drives to work because I work in Staten Island, so I have a car. I didn't have one before, but then when I got the job, I it's like a 2 hour commute each way, and then when I get there, I have to drive to court and things like that. So I'm somebody who needs a car. So I was nervous and
Yeah.
I was kind of stressed out about it, like where I'm going to park. But when all was said and done, when they came, it turned out not to be such a big deal, at least for me, as I see it. I feel like somehow it was absorbed into the community. So and actually it's turned out to be great for coronavirus times. People are
Mhm.
able to socially distance and ride to work. People can use the bike lanes to walk in and, social distance. So it's turned out to be better than I think expected. And I'm really, really excited to see the Queensboro Bridge being used, the outer roadway, to be used for pedestrians only. And then the other side will be for bikes only, because we walk on that a lot, but we've avoided it during coronavirus because it's too tight up there. It's kind of dangerous. So,
Yeah.
so I'm happy about that. So yeah, so I think it's worked out, but I also want to, the bike lanes are only part of the equation. I think we need to be cognizant of people who can't ride bikes and, disabled, the elderly, people who own cars for those reasons, people who need a car for work, like me, like I said, and I know our council member owns a car as well. So, we want to be, sympathetic to people who maybe have tools in their trunk, maybe they're a plumber, exterminator. So we want to
Hmm.
make sure that we're not, we'll be sympathetic to those efforts as well. And then also, um, I also want to, say, yeah, like just from doing like all the research I've done for Sunnyside Yards, I probably did like 1,000 hours over the last 3 years on Sunnyside Yards and capital improvements and big developers and real estate and how everything works in the city. And I just know that we want to be aware of things that are capital improvements that make housing costs increase and rents increase, which bike lanes are part of that. And I know bike lanes are great, and they're going to help with solving the global crisis, or the environmental crisis. But we just have to make sure we have protections in place. Like we want to make sure we have rent controls in place and things like that to protect us as we're making our community better. So yeah, it's just something to be aware of.
All right. Now, Emily, is there anything else that I haven't raised that maybe you might want to talk about in terms of your candidacy?
Yeah, well, so I said, this is a grassroots effort. I've been here for a long time. I love the community. I feel like I know what's going on. I'm a really hard worker. I know I want to protect people. I'm one of the leaders in the fight for PHIPPS and against the bad landlord, against Sunnyside Yards. I just want good things for myself and my people here. I have a son who I want to be able to live here, and his friends, I want them to be able to continue to live here and not have to work on Wall Street to do it. I want them to be artists and musicians and type B personalities. I think that I don't want to see New York turn into a city just for the wealthy. We're only like Paris and London and Rome. I want us to be able to live here. I want to preserve public housing. I want to preserve the diversity of New York City. I want to make sure that we're not giving all of our power away to corporations and corporate interests, and because that's what's happening now. They're doing tops-down planning. We didn't touch on this, but
no,
right process. Now, yeah. So maybe could I say a few words about that?
Absolutely, Emily. Yeah, go ahead.
So ULURP right now, people are saying they want to scrap ULURP, but I think it's a good thing. We just need to make it a lot stronger. It was started in 1977 through the city charter revision, and it was meant to give the public, the communities, more say in what happens in land use. And I just don't think the community has enough power. Actually, the community board is only advisory, so they don't have that much of a say. They can be overruled by the city council member, which they are often. So I think that it should be made stronger. I think that the community should be a part of it. I think it should be a big deal. I think it should be not developer driven, but it should be community driven. I know a lot of groups, a lot of neighborhoods like Sunset Park in Brooklyn and the Lower East Side in Chinatown have their own working groups, and they've made community plans. And so they, it's like protective, like they want to see all these good things, but they also want to make sure that they get to stay there. But yeah, so I think development, I think the ULURP process should be a big deal. So maybe a couple times a year, we should be presented, like we bring to the process. So these are the plans that want to happen. Let's talk about it. Everybody is involved. They get public notice. Get something in the mail. These are the things that are happening. It should be like a really big deal. So, but I don't think we should scrap ULURP. I think we should make it stronger. I think we should bring it down even more to the community level. And so what's happening now, though, which is really people need to be aware of, is Corey Johnson, City Council Speaker. He is trying to promote a comprehensive plan, which would be taking planning from your neighborhood out of our hands even more and giving it to the mayor and committees that he appoints. And so basically it would be, I think there's going to be like 3 plans, and you get to pick which plan you want for your community. Like every community is told or every district is told you have to pick one of these plans. And if you don't pick it, you don't know which one you want, or you don't pick it, then the mayor will pick it for you, or his committee will pick it for you. So it's even more top-down plan, even worse than it is now. Yeah. And so we want to be, we already have top-down planning. We have the EDC, which plans is planning for us. We have the Empire State Development Corporation planning for us, which is like the equivalent of the EDC. And we have partnership from New York City that's planning for us. We have the Regional Plan Association who's planning, like everything is planned top down in the city. We have that now, so we don't want to have something else. We want to be planning grassroots. We want to be making the decisions for ourselves, the community, coming together and saying what we want. So people should really be aware of this comprehensive plan that's being floated now. There's a lot of people, Tom Ignati, who is a planner. He's really spoken out. He wrote an article, I think, in City Limits talking about why it's not a good plan. It's the top-down driven even more. So as a candidate, I am trying, and a city council member, I just want to bring grassroots effort, grassroots planning back to the community. I want us to have the power over corporations and special interests. Like everything that happens here is done for the benefit of the powerful people. And I want it to be for us. So like I said, I want us to be able to live here. I want to preserve all the great things in New York City, the diversity of people and spaces. That's what I'm fighting for. I'm a true grassroots candidate. And, if you want more information, please go to my website, emilyforcitycouncil.com, and I have my platform there. And you can see the About Me page is my friend Fred and I, we worked on we did the website, and there's drawings by our daughter, and they're really great. So it's a really great website, and you can read more about my platform. So so that's it. And
Well, listen, Emily, thank you for joining me today, giving me all your time.
Thank you, Christian. Really appreciate it.
Okay.
Thanks so much.